Hi everyone, welcome to session 3 of our online induction programme, in which we'll look at the 5 core principles. Today we will be led by 2 committed Lasallians, Brian Halpin and Edel Nolan from De La Salle College, Dundalk. Brian is also chairman of the MEL committee in Ireland, so thank you very much Brian and Edel for preparing today's session and for leading us through everything today, and I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. We'll get started as always. We'll begin with a prayer. So let us remember we're in the holy presence of God. In one of his letters, St. John Baptist de La Salle wrote, "May God continue what he has begun in you." We are reminded that our personal Lasallian journeys are shared with over 1 million students in 80 countries around the world. May our shared charism unite us, our cultural differences enrich us, and God's grace inspire us. We pray for all Lasallians who have suffered from the pandemic. We pray for our teachers, staff, and administrators who continue to touch hearts and provide a quality education for their students. We pray for our living and deceased Lasallian graduates, our students today, and those students who have yet to receive the gift of our Lasallian charism. We pray in a special way for our pastoral centres.
We pray in a special way for the schools in our district and their students. May we recognize God's presence in our daily lives. May we seek God's wisdom in facing life's challenges. May we be God's compassion to the underserved, and may we always be God's unconditional love to all we meet. St. John Baptist de La Salle,
pray
for us and live Jesus in our hearts forever. Hi everybody, thanks Joe for the introduction. It's great to be here this morning with everybody. As Joe said, my name is Edel Nolan and I'm a secondary school teacher in Ireland, in Dundalk. I've been teaching there for about 22 years. I'm a teacher for about 25 years and I'm a member of the MEL committee here in Ireland.
Hello everyone, again thanks Joe for the introduction. My name's Brian Halpin. I am a teacher in De La Salle College in Dundalk. I've been there for 21 years teaching history and English, and as Joe said, I'm also the chairperson of the MEL committee. So we'll get started. So today what we're looking at is, what does it mean to be Lasallian? In session 1, you received a welcome to the Lasallian family from Heather and brother Michael. In session 2, we looked at the life story of our founder presented to you by Joe and Emma. And today, what we're looking at is what it means to be Lasallian. So the question we ask is, what does being Lasallian mean? Is it just a story? Is it a book to read and put back up on a shelf? Or is it more than that? The Lasallian family believes it is much more than just a story. De La Salle's life and teachings have had a huge influence on the world, and they continue to do so today. What the Lasallian family is about is transforming the story of a 17th century Frenchman into a source of hope, inspiration, and encouragement, bringing the 17th century man into our lived reality. We have strong roots in Lasallian tradition, transitioning from those roots into our 21st century teaching and our 21st century classroom, ultimately bringing a transformation in our Lasallian students. Sometimes when we are introduced to a new concept, it can look a little bit like this. Lots of words and ideas jumbled together. It can become somewhat overwhelming. We become confused, bewildered, frustrated. Our goal in the time we have today is to try and bring some clarity to the concept of Lasallian identity and what it means to be Lasallian. So what is Lasallian? If you ask the question, you might be pointed in the direction of some of these publications. Reflection takes place at different levels. We use different words to express the same thing: hallmarks, commitments, characteristics, axioms, core principles. The Lasallian identity framework is something you will become more familiar with in the future, especially within the District of Ireland, Great Britain and Malta. All of these have been attempts to define the identity of Lasallian schools. But perhaps the most popular set of identity markers at present are the 5 core principles of Lasallian schools. What we find is that these core principles articulate an accessible set of pathways for Lasallian students, as well as Lasallian teachers, to recognize, appreciate, and promote their personal experiences in a Lasallian Catholic school. Today, we are going to unpack the 5 core principles. A brief history of where the 5 core principles came from. In the 1980s, we had discussions about characteristics of Lasallian schools, characteristics of a Lasallian school today. In the 90s, we focused on 7 characteristics of Lasallian identity, which developed into touching the hearts of students. And then we refined that into 6 characteristics of Lasallian schools. In the 2000s, we moved on to goals of Lasallian ministries, 9 basic guidelines which define Lasallian. However, for today's purposes, 2 years are very significant to us: 1993 and 1994. In 1993, a Lasallian student leadership workshop took place in North America. At this workshop, attendees were given a handout based on a 1967 document, The Brother of the Christian School in the World Today, a Declaration. In the 12 months that followed, students from a De La Salle school in Milwaukee, Oregon, had discussions with their principal. They wanted to put into practice what they had learned at the workshop the previous year. They created 5 banners with simplified representations of the Lasallian characteristics, and they hung them on the school's hallways. Thus, the 5 core principles were brought to life. In order to bring focus on these 5 core principles, we're going to use a familiar symbol that connects Lasallians across the globe. The 5-pointed Lasallian star. What does it represent? It is a symbol of faith. It links all the De La Salle schools, universities, communities around the world together. We've all seen the Lasallian star on school crests, uniforms, buildings. Indeed, De La Salle himself meditated on the idea. In Meditation 208.2, he eloquently describes a Lasallian teacher in terms of the star. Those who instruct many in justice shall shine like stars throughout eternity. But the 5-pointed star also reminds us of 5 qualities, i.e., our 5 core principles and what it means to be Lasallian. So what are the 5 core principles? 1, faith in the presence of God. 2, concern for the poor and social justice. 3, respect for all persons. 4, quality education. And 5, inclusive community. You will see different expressions of these around the world. The visual of the core principles of a Lasallian school is one you may be familiar with, as we use it in the District of Ireland, Great Britain and Malta. However, you may come across something slightly different, like this one, from St. Mary's College, Moraga in California. Despite the different artistic expressions of these qualities, the 5 core principles are at the heart of what being Lasallian means. What I have done is provide some background context to the Lasallian identity and what it means to be Lasallian. I brought your focus on the 5 core principles of a Lasallian school. Edel will now highlight what these core principles mean for the Lasallian mission and the Lasallian school. She'll also look at what part they play for a Lasallian teacher.
The Lasallian mission is an apostolic ministry of the Catholic Church that provides a human and Christian education to all young people, especially the poor and marginalized, by professionals acting together and by association. It's significant here that in saying that the mission is to provide a human and Christian education, that human comes first. A Catholic or a Lasallian education is a human education based in a Christian Catholic tradition. Our mission is to educate the whole person. A Lasallian school is sustained by the life, vision, and spirituality of St. John Baptist de La Salle, the patron of all teachers. Lasallian schools are characterized by an over 300-year tradition of relationship-centered education. This tradition is well expressed in the 5 core principles of Lasallian schools. Let's take a quick look at each of these now together. Faith in the presence of God. The Lasallian school believes in the living presence of, the Lasallian school believes in the living presence of God in the school, the community, and in the world. For de La Salle, daily prayer, reflection, meditation, attending Mass, these were an essential part of his life. Faith in the presence of God gave him and the brothers the strength, wisdom, and resilience needed to do their work. His strong faith is obvious in his dying words. I adore in all things the will of God in my regard. Our Lasallian prayer, let us remember we're in the holy presence of God, reminds us of the need to believe in a higher power, a guiding hand, a positive force that leads us all along the right path in life. Today, as well as introducing you to the 5 core principles, we'd also like you to take some time to reflect on how these principles are promoted within your own school. With that in mind, I'll mention 1 or 2 examples from our school here in Dundalk as I run through each principle. Also, you'll have an opportunity in your breakout rooms later to share your experiences and hear from others. One of the ways we encourage students and teachers to remember the principle, faith in the presence of God, is to encourage them to say the Lasallian Prayer at the start of each class or meeting. We had the prayer embossed onto wooden boards, as you can see in the photo here, and there's a board in every room in the school. In your discussion groups later, these might be questions to consider in regard to your own school. In what ways are you reminded that you're in the holy presence of God? How do you celebrate God in your community? How do you recognize the presence of God in the world? Two, concern for the poor and social justice. The Lasallian school calls its members to an awareness of and a sensitivity towards the poor and those suffering from injustice. We're asked to actively work towards improving the immediate conditions of those in need. In a Lasallian school, we enter to learn and we leave to serve. De La Salle set out to educate the poorest in society, as he believed that it was only through education that their souls could be saved and their economic situation improved. In 1683-84, when famine hit France, he used his inheritance to supply food to the starving. In our school, students and teachers display concern for the poor and social justice in a variety of ways, from Santa runs and street collections to help local charities, to working overseas on the Salle and Developing World projects during the summer. How does your school community show concern for social justice? Number 3, respect for all persons. Respect-filled relationships are at the heart of Lasallian education. It's important that we respect every person because we are all children of God. Our prayer, "Live Jesus in our hearts forever," inspires us to remember this. If we look at the life of Lasalle, he took in the lay teachers, he ate with them, he taught them, and he treated them as equals, something that was unheard of for someone in his position in society. He acted as a role model for his teachers, showing them in how he related to them, how he wanted them to treat his students. Care and respect were essential. In our school, we promote the principle of respecting all persons in many ways, as I'm sure you do in your school, encouraging students to be polite and courteous at all times, to listen to others' opinions, to be willing to share their own. By modeling the behavior we would like to see in them, by accompanying them on extracurricular trips and activities, and going above and beyond what is expected of teachers. How is respect promoted in your school? Quality education. The Lasallian School provides an education that prepares students not only for a job in college, but also for life. This education advances the students' abilities to critically examine the world and to take greater responsibility for their own education. As Lasallian educators, we're encouraged to both teach minds and touch hearts. If we consider De La Salle, he was the first to teach students through their vernacular, French, rather than Latin, recognizing that this made education much more accessible and success much more likely. He introduced subjects that would really help them earn a living. He met the students where they were at, and he led them to where they needed to be. In our school, we're constantly reviewing the subjects and courses we offer. For example, we recently introduced the Leaving Cert Applied course to run alongside the traditional Leaving Cert Senior course. This course is based on continuous assessment rather than a terminal exam, and so suits some students a lot better than others. We have an optional fourth year transition year course available to students. This course offers work experience and a taste of all senior cycle subjects and practical certificate courses in first aid and other useful life skills. Peer mentoring is also encouraged in our school, and we offer many extracurricular activities. How would you say your school provides quality education? Inclusive community. The Lasallian School is a united community where diversity is respected, where no one is left out, and where everyone finds a place. De La Salle provided free education, which meant no one was excluded. His schools had such a good reputation that even sons of those who could afford to pay wanted to come. In our school, students of all religions and none are welcomed. We encourage all students to participate in Lasallian formation courses, competitions, celebrations, so they have an opportunity to meet other Lasallians. When reciting our Lasallian prayer, non-Christians are welcome to substitute the word God for Jesus, and those who do not wish to say the prayer are encouraged to silently reflect during prayer time. Another example of how we try to foster this sense of being a Lasallian family among the adults of our community is each year for our De La Salle Day, we have an evening gathering where auxiliary staff, parents, retired staff, board members, management and teachers all come together to celebrate and to support each other. Would you consider your school an inclusive community? Can you think of ways that you could encourage it? The 5 core principles act as practical reminders on a daily basis of our Lasallian mission. As Greg Copra put it, I am not of the opinion that these 5 core principles define us or even distinguish us. Rather, they help to describe what we do and why we do it. The Lasallian teacher, then, is one who acts as a good shepherd, having a strong, supportive relationship with their students. They view teaching as a vocation. They strive not just to impart knowledge, but more importantly, to touch hearts. They act as a role model or mentor, and they act as co-educators of children along with the child's parents. As Lasallian teachers, we have the support and help of a strong Lasallian community here in our own district and worldwide. As students in a Lasallian school, our students have these supports also. Working together is the key to success. I'll finish with a quote from Brother Alvaro, which I think encapsulates the collaborative nature of Lasallian education very nicely. Each dream is a personal one, but a Lasallian dream should also be a collective one. When one dreams alone, it's only a dream, but when we dream together, our dreams can become a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian and Edel. Thank you for those thought-provoking words that we can now start to process a little bit more in some breakout rooms. So there's a couple of questions that we'd like you to be thinking of. Edel offered us lots of questions there that maybe are running around your mind right now. But when you get into breakout rooms, just take a few minutes just to introduce yourselves and think about what it is that you're passionate about in school and in education generally and in its contribution to society. Think about as well any experiences or any moments, any anecdotes that you do have that kind of bring to life those 5 core principles. We've had lots of examples throughout that presentation. And then perhaps anything that's really struck you today or challenged you. So we'll take a few minutes in breakout rooms. There should be around about 4 in each group, I think, so we should have a couple of people to chat to, and then we'll come back together to see if anybody would like to share any thoughts. Okay, thank you. And just to sort of recap the session that we've had today. So we've been looking at the 5 core principles, and just to repeat, these are not the perfect, the ultimate means to kind of like set out who we are. They just help to describe who we are and what it is that we do. The 5 core principles are just a tool. They're probably one of the most accessible tools that we have at the moment to express that founding intuition and all the key characteristics that have inspired us over the 300 years worth of educators spanning over 79 countries and impacting the lives of 1 million students. Next time we meet in February, we plan on spending a little bit more time reflecting on the underpinning Lasallian spirituality and what makes the Lasallian network more than just a charitable and effective NGO bringing about change in society. So we'll delve a little bit further into the spirituality that underpins everything that we do. But as always, we aim and we are finishing on time. Oh, Brother Ben, we'll pass to you.
Yeah, Joe, just sorry, before you close up, I just on behalf of the district leadership, I just want to say a couple of thank yous. Thank you to everybody who was participated this morning from the schools. Yeah. And I appreciate you're all very busy people, but I think it's great that you've come on to this particular induction. And I have no doubt that it's going to benefit you. And it's great to hear Liz talk about that, how she actually enjoys coming on to the sessions. I want in a very special way to thank Unan and Joe for facilitating this, because they're doing that with all of the sessions and making it very pleasant and very easy for everybody and linking it all together. It is part of our formation, and Joe is our director of formation and Unan is our head of communication. So for all you do for that, I really want to thank you and say well done. And finally, I want to say a very special word of thanks to both Brian and Edel. They live out the Lasallian dream in their school every day by their teaching, by what they do there for their students, and also what they do at MEL level in Ireland and at district level as well. So, and today was a very, very, very professional, but also a very inspiring talk for all of us. I'm inspired by it. I was taken by it, and it speaks to me. Lots of things I'll carry away from it about respect. I think they're totally unashamed in the way in which they reference God in their lives, and I find that very heartening for me to hear that. So thank you so much, guys, for a superb. I wouldn't have expected anything else, but it was really, really good. So that's my part. Sorry, Joe, for it.
Thank you so much, Brother Ben. And just to echo that, thank you so much, Brian and Edel, for your time and your commitment. Did you want to say something? Yeah.
Just wanted to say thanks everybody for joining us this morning, and yeah, we really appreciate it, because I know probably like us, you guys are in and out of classes at the moment, and under pressure with work and everything. So thanks very much, and for your involvement and your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thanks again, and we'll see you in February. Thank you, everyone.